Let's see. Okay, so for those who are here, welcome. This is going to be Beyond Time Management, 3 ways to reframe your environment to unleash your creating power. I'm Joy Spencer, your certified professional coach. Excited to be with you this afternoon. Glad you're joining in. Hi, Afua. And so why don't you guys go ahead and share in the chat, those of you who are here already, share in the chat, where are you calling in from, and word to describe your current mood. So I'll go first. I am in, I don't think it's sunny anymore, DC. It's kind of overcast today, a little bit cloudy. And, but I am in a really good mood, actually. I'm feeling pretty pumped. So pumped would be the word that I would describe my mood. I'm excited to chat with you guys today and have a little fun. So yeah, I see Nikosi's in here. Hi, Nikosi from Tacoma Park. Sunny. Carol, of course it's sunny where you are. You're in Florida. I'm not bitter. Yep, Jessup, Maryland, Oregon. Oh, Kelly, you're in Oregon. Great to have you call in. Yes, Texas. Cloudy today in Texas. Faith, yeah, good mood, calm. That's good. Okay. Looking for some motivation. Good stuff. So, well, welcome you guys. I'm so glad to have you guys. And it is 12 noon exactly. So to respect your time, we're going to have a good time today. I sent a message and I hope everyone got it just the last minute to remember to have your notebook and your pen, because we're going to do a little bit of work today. So if you don't have that yet, this is a good time to make a quick dash to get your notebook, a pen. You don't need a notebook, just like at least some paper or all of that. But welcome, and let's go ahead and get started. So this is Beyond Time Management, because we are all done with time management, right? So 3 ways to reframe your environment to unleash your creating power. And again, I'm Joy Spencer, certified professional coach. I mostly work with executive leaders and really professionals of all levels within an organization, and also work externally as well. So this is really exciting for me because time management and issues around time management is something that a lot of people are always dealing with. And especially those of us who want to create, we always think, oh, I need time. I need to get more time. How am I going to find more of that time to create what it is that I want to? So this is going to be fun. And hopefully I know you guys are going to get a lot out of today that's going to be helpful in moving you in this direction. So we know why I'm here and sort of like why we're here, but I want to just sort of gauge where you guys are right now. So just share in the chat, where are you when it comes to your creating? Are you someone you feel like you don't have any time right now to create the things that you want to create and put that focus and energy on that? Or are you more sort of like on the B category where you have some time, but you're looking for some more time? So just go ahead and share in the chat. Where are you guys right now? So I see a couple B's. Yeah. B, Faith,
minus.
B minus. That is hilarious. That's hilarious. So yes, C. I really don't know what C would be. Because something else, right? A minus. Yes. So yeah, we're all struggling, right? We've all got some challenge around this, thing with time and wanting more time to create. But I have some news for you guys. News flash. Time is not your problem. I know it's very common for us to talk about how busy we are, how we don't have enough time, or we're somehow looking for time in some mysterious place, expecting it to show up. But really, time is not your problem. If you remember nothing else from this afternoon and our time together, I hope this sticks in your head that time is not your problem. So let that be something that we put to the side and we no longer sort of reference and talk about it as if time is our issue. It's not your problem. But I'm going to share, and when we talk about the ways to reframe your environment, I'm going to share what actually is our problem and what's sort of getting in the way. And why do I care about this? Why am I so passionate about this? Well, as I mentioned, I'm a coach. I work with executives. I work with leaders. I work with folks in all levels of the organization. But what I really, really, really care about is for all of us, especially professionals, that we are tapping into our gifts and using our gifts, because I believe that that's what we're born for, that living purposefully is discovering, expressing, and offering our gifts and service. And that service could be paid or free. But really, the crux of it is that sometimes we get so stuck in this idea that our jobs and our careers are the full totality of what our work is. And really, it's not. We're here to create and to serve. And our work is bigger. Our work is bigger and more and beyond our work in our career. So I'm on a mission here today and every single day, and when I'm working and coaching, to challenge and incite professionals like you and myself to create with our gifts. That's where the excitement and the joy is, and that's where we're going to be able to make our unique contribution to the world once we've tapped into that and figured out how to create things, products, services, whatever they are. And this doesn't mean that you have to leave your job. You can if you want to, but really, I feel like it's a non-negotiable to figure out and be about your work, that bigger work. So that's the driving passion that's behind what I'm sharing today, and all, really tackling this whole thing around time management. So to that end, what are we going to do, and what are we going to get into? So for today, I'm going to, show you 3 ways to reframe your environment, and it'll be interesting. You'll see that I define environment a little bit differently than others might. But 3 ways to reframe your environment to unleash your creating power. And because I'm so nice, I'm going to share a bonus way as well. So there will actually be 4 that we'll have and share by the end of the day. And then we're going to do a demo today. We're going to do a couple of demos, but that's why you need your notebook and your pen. For those who weren't here earlier, I should, make sure you rush off and get your notebook, your pen, or your piece of paper, because we're going to do some work. Because I think it's really important for us to just get into the actual practice of this. So I hope you guys are game and excited, and we're going to get right into it. So, before we get deeper into that, and those of you who came to my first webinar know about this, but if you're interested in really doing and getting into some action around this, I'm going to be sharing by the end of this webinar every single day challenge that I run every single month. I've done it in April and May, and we'll have a final one for the summer in June. And so you'll hear a little bit more about that at the end, which is a great way and opportunity for you to actually put some of the things that we're going to talk about today into practice. So let's get into it. So this idea about reframing your environment is part of a larger framework, a signature process that I have of how I work with clients and helping them to move away from this idea of just being productive and churning things out into being people who create with their gifts. So the reframe your environment is the second piece of the framework, but I'm going to go through the whole framework just to sort of give you a high level view of it. So don't worry if you missed the first webinar. So the first step of the create framework, which is to help to move you from just being someone who's always focused on that hamster wheel of being productive, but to getting to be someone who creates with your gifts, is clarifying your unique contribution. It's important to do the work to figure out, like, what is it that I have to offer? What are my gifts and talents, and how am I going to, what is that, and how do I want to offer that to the world? What we'll be going into deeper today is about reframing your environment, which is about doing the work of supporting yourself, being able to support your ability to go deeper into creating with your gifts. And then, sorry, I got a little stuck here, expressing your gifts for yourself. So often we're always thinking about, okay, well, am I going to make money from this, or what will other people think about it? And we often use that as an excuse not to just still use and create with our gifts. So sometimes we have to set ourselves off the hook and remember, expressing your gifts for yourself is paramount and critical and just as valid as expressing your gifts for the world, which is the 4th piece, right? Activate your gifts for others. That's that offering it in service to the world. And that's how you create your legacy and leave something that's distinct to you behind. And this offer can be paid or free. So again, don't get stuck on that. Do I have to monetize it or do I not? No, like, just offer it to at least one other human being, and you are operating in your purpose. And then tracking and getting feedback and reflecting on your offerings is another critical piece. Once you've offered it to the world, to be able to see, how are people responding? What are people getting out of this? And how can I continue to serve those who are benefiting from what I have to give to the world? And then there's always growth and evolving beyond and continuous learning, right? And this is what keeps you in this sort of creating cycle where you're like, okay, I'm going to evolve, I'm going to learn, maybe I'm going to tweak and tinker around with how I express my gifts. Maybe I'm going to do something around my environment, or maybe I'm going to go back and learn something new and further clarify my unique contribution, because it may not be one thing. So that's the overall framework, right? And so what we'll be deep diving into today, as I said, is about this idea of reframing your environment. So, look familiar? Is this you? or maybe you're reformed and this used to be you, right? But I'm sure you know what this is. This is someone who is just like got a lot of stuff going on. They're like flooded, loaded down. They can barely look over he can barely look over the pile of books, right? Is this you? And this is us, right? When we're in that place of like, I'm doing this thing, I've got this stuff going on, I don't have enough time for creating, or I wish I had more time. This is usually how we're feeling on the inside, even if we're not carrying books, right? So I want you to imagine, like, you know, if you could create every single day, if like every single day you came to the end of your day and you were like, whatever happened, I got to create with my gifts. I got to do the thing that I was born to do. Just how would that feel for you? So just share in the chat, just a couple of words, like what like emotions or words, and don't tell me good. Like, come on, y'all, you can be a little bit more creative than that. Like, what would it feel like to be able to create every single day with your gifts? Share in the chat. Fulfilling. Yes. That's a great word, Carol. Fulfilling. Empowering. Liberating, enthusiastic, revitalized. I mean, these are great words. Yes, exactly. It would feel just like absolutely phenomenal. And so if that's not happening, accomplished and invigorated, great, yes. If that's not happening, right? Like look at all these words that are in the chat. Like imagine all the things that we're missing out on, you know, every single day when we don't come to the end of the day having had that experience. So I want that for myself, and I assume that you guys are here because you want that for yourself. So, right? But this is kind of where we are. So if you had a friend, okay, scratch that. If you were a good friend and you went to a buffet with your friend and your friend came back with their plate looking like this, and they were like, oh, I wish I had a bigger plate. What am I going to do? What would you really say to your friend if you were a friend? I know what I would say. I would say, I don't think you need a bigger stomach. You can't eat all that so much. Yeah. I would say, yeah, there's like, your problem is not the plate, girlfriend. Your problem is you have too much stuff on your plate. And isn't this us, right? Like, instead of saying, okay, do I have too much stuff on my plate? We're like, I need more time. And that's essentially asking for a bigger plate. But you're not going to get a bigger plate because you only have 24 hours and we all have it, right? So that's the first thing, and the first environment and way that you need to reframe your thinking is around boundary management. Your issue, as I said, and I'll say it over and over again, your issue is not time. You have enough time. What's not happening is that boundary management and that ability to filter out and say, should this even be on my plate in the first place? Do I really need a hamburger, a cheeseburger, a chicken, a this, and a hot dog, and all this sort of stuff on this plate? And if my plate is overflowing, you know, can I start asking the question, should this even be here in the first place? You know, because the more you're able to say no and to begin to put that filter around, like the less it becomes important to figure out, oh, do I have enough time for this or that? Like, that's the first question you should be asking. Should I be doing this at all? Not, do I have time for this? So that's a question that we often skip over and just get right into, oh yes, I want to do and be able to do all the things. And so, you know, take a little inspiration from Hamlet and learn how to say no. So that's the first thing, right? Like remembering that your issue is not that you don't have enough time, you know, you don't need any more time. You know, you want to start asking yourself, is everything on my plate, is everything that fits into my 24-hour period, or even like a week, is everything there absolutely essential? Like, have I started to be what Greg McKeown calls an essentialist, right? And essentialism, if I have not told you about essentialism before, I'm telling you now. Essentialism is the only book that I've probably read like 3 times, and I'm about to read it a 4th time. Absolutely life-changing, reframe way of thinking about what needs to be in your life and what doesn't. You know, so you want to ask yourself, is everything on my plate essential? And is my plate also full of only essential things, right? Because you could have like 4 essential things and then like 10 things that are non-essential, or just like sucking up your time. Like you haven't really thought about if this is in line with your purpose or anything like that. But can you begin to have a plate that is truly full, or not even like full, but just has the things that are essential on it? And how different would that be, and what an impact that has on just how you're experiencing time and this whole thing around time management, which, as I said before, time is not your issue. So you remember the first plate. So look at this one. Like, what do you see? Like, share in the chat. What is it that you see in this plate that's quite categorically different from the first plate? Yeah, it's better, right? It looks healthy. Yeah, food looks healthy. Yes, the quality of the food itself looks better. Yes, exactly. Great point. Margin, space. And that is huge, right? You see fewer food, you see healthier food, but what you can also actually see is the plate itself. And that is critical, and what a lot of us miss. We miss how important it is to have blank space. Space is so important to you to create. A lot of times we fill our lives because we don't want to feel bored or have a sense or have a gap. But actually scheduling blank space is so critical to your ability to create. You need to be bored. You need to have nothing to do except stare at the wall. That goes hand in hand with your ability to create, just that space to breathe and, take in. So start thinking about how you can actually block out space in your life for nothing, like you need it. So yeah, because a lot of good things happen in that blank space. That's critical. So you don't need more time. You need space. You need creating space. Yes, exactly. So you need breathing space to create, right? I love that. Breathing space is creating space. Exactly. And when you think about your whole life, and as someone who is committed to and wants to create, you have to start thinking about, like, okay, forget the status quo. Forget what, if you live here on the East Coast of the United States, what everybody's always saying, yes, I'm busy, I'm productive, I'm go, 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 go. You have to buck that whole system and say, no, I'm not going with the status quo. I'm going to be unproductive. I'm going to be someone who has a lot of space and a time and room, because you're going to find that your life is going to be so much more and more fulfilling, and you're going to be able to create more. So that's that, right? So we've talked about that. So a little mini homework assignment. Make sure you get where are the notebooks, papers, and pens. This is the time. So, all right, good. Thanks, Nikosi. I see you waving yours. Okay, so this week you're new. I'm going to give you. This is not the demo, but I'm going to give you your list for this coming week. I want you to try this out. This is your new list, and they're going to be just 4 things on your list, big categories. The first thing on your list is you're creating whatever. I put X, whatever that is. If you're a writer and you're working on a book, that's the first thing on your list, writing my book. If you're an artist or whatever you are, if you are someone who is creative in another way, like you're an architect, or you are working on a research project, or you're someone who's creating a project or any sort of broad project, this is the first thing on your list for next week. Then you get to put another 2 items, and I don't know what those are. It's up to you, but you only get 2 other items. So think very carefully. And everything else is going on your to-don't list. That's it. This is your schedule for next week. You're creating 2 other items, and then everything else is getting tossed out. Just try it. Humor me for a week. So that's your first assignment. Because this is to help you think about boundaries and really practicing essentialism. And so just to give you an example, as I mentioned, I work with a lot of executives and leaders. And so there's a leader who I've been working with for over a year. I'll call her Laura. And when she first came to me, her work life was just all over the place. She said she had no time, and this was this is the thrust of the conversation all the time. I don't have enough time. I'm drawn in so many different directions. I'm helping, as soon as the moment I come into the day, I'm helping my teammates put out fires. I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and I have all these responsibilities. And so what I challenged her to do was to identify her 5 vital functions. Like, so it was narrowing down what she was doing and really was helping her to think about, like, okay, what is really essential to me, to my role? The question was like, and so I was challenging her to think about, it's nice that you're doing and helping your direct reports do all these things, but really, should you really be doing that? Is that really helping them? Especially when you're not doing the work of supporting their development. And so this was big and huge for her, because once we'd sort of gotten her into this place of getting her to her 5 vital functions, an essential list for the week, she had a completely different experience with how she was relating to her employees, with how she was experiencing her work, because she wasn't being pulled in all sorts of different directions. She didn't have that monstrous, huge plate of food, but she was able to start seeing some blank space and actually do what was most critical to her work. And I'll share a little bit more about what she is now doing with that blank space that she's incorporated into her work. So let's see, let's move forward. So, is this you at the end of your day? You know, tired out, battery drained, just looking a hot mess. And if someone were to ask you, if when you were in this condition, hey, what did you create today? Because that would be me, the person who would come at you at the end of your day and say, what did you create today? How did you invest in your gifts? And you're like, look, do you see how I look right now? Like, I did not have time for I don't have time for that. And I would say, your problem is not time. Your problem is you don't have energy. Your problem is you've not managed your energy optimally to be able to actually get to the end of the day and still be able to create. So what is that? What is this thing about energy management, which I think is so much more critical than time management? Well, think about it. You've had an experience where you had like 5 hours to do something, and the moment that the task was mentioned, you suddenly had this bout of sleeping sickness come over you, and you were just like, oh, I just can't. I don't know why I have no energy. Like, I don't know what's going on. And then you've had other things where it's like you have an hour and you're just like, oh my goodness. And then you've done like 20 different things and you're ripping and roaring and going, like, what's the difference? The difference is not the time that you had for the task. The difference is the energy that you were able to bring to the task. But more importantly, it was whether or not that thing that you were engaged in is something that energizes you naturally, or whether or not it was something that drains you. And so this is the other piece, right? We need to do a better job of knowing exactly down to the micro action. What are the things that energize us and what are the things that drain us? And when we're thinking about our plate, like, and you look at your plate, how much on your plate are things that energize you versus things that drain you? Because if you have a plate that tends to be overloaded with things that drain you anyway, you're more likely to get to the end of your day and feel like, I just don't have the time. When really what you're saying is, I just don't have the energy for any of this. But how do you get more energy? By having a plate, a life where you're shifting the balance towards more things that energize you versus things that drain you. And that's so, and that's something that we all often sort of like, push to the side and think we can't do, but you can. Like, this is real work that needs to be done that we're often neglecting to do. So notebook time again. Make sure you've got it. Got a new page? So you can do a quick screenshot of this or write it down. This is your other assignment for the coming week. Think about and create your energize versus drain list. Anything that's on your list, you need to be assessing what's already currently on your plate, because if you can toss it out, if it needs to be gone. So think about it. What are the things that are on my plate that are energizing me, that are supporting me, that are really getting me hyped up and amped up? They don't need to be the things that you create, right? But these are the things that are supporting that. Because having more of those things on your plate is going to help you when you come to the end of your day to actually still have enough fuel to create. And what are the things that are draining you? What are the things that are sort of just like taking you out? Know what those things are, and start to go at those things, and start to think about your list about what should be on or what shouldn't be on in those terms. So again, it's not about how much time you have, it's how much energy you're able to bring to the things that you want to do and the things that you want to create. Because we all know this, we all have this experience, like there are things that you do and engage in that make you feel like time is slowing down. You want it to come to an end, but the time just keeps going and you're just like, make it stop. And other things that you're just like, yes, yes, oh my goodness. It's like, no, I don't want it to end. Where did the time go? You want to load up your life with those things that are giving you that level 10 yes excitement, in addition to your blank space. So can you imagine a life that's just level 10 exciting stuff, and then your blank space to recoup and refresh and possibly create in that space? So critical, so important, because we want to do the work, all the pre-work that needs to happen in order to support your creating. So we've done boundary management, we've done energy management. So how many of you guys believe in priorities? Getting yourselves together, organizing your life, establishing your priorities. I see some head nods. Newsflash, there is no such thing as priorities. Okay, so this is another thing that you'll learn if you read Essentialism. Yes, I know I tricked you. You learn from Essentialism is that there's no such thing as priorities. So the word priority, T, is singular. And what I learned from Greg McKeon in Essentialism is that the word priority entered the English language in the 1400s. And for 500 years, it was singular. And priority just means the first thing. And it's singular, because like you can't have more than one first thing. But in the 1900s, Industrial Revolution and all that stuff, folks thought they could get smart, and we're like, okay, well, we're going to have priorities now. And I'm sure you've been in an organization where we're like, oh, here's priority 1, priority 2, priority 2, 3, priority. No, there's only one priority, and it is the first thing that you do. So that's another way in which we need to get our thinking right and realize there can be only one first thing. So as someone who wants to create and do more creating and have more space for it, you need to start thinking about priority management. How are you managing your priority, the priority, the first thing that you do? And where do the things that are most important to you rank? Because we can say that things are important to us, but if they are not if we don't make them our priority, if they never show up as the first thing, how important are they? So you really want to get to a place where you're beginning to match as close as possible your what you say is most important to you with your priority. So there's no such thing as priorities. There's only priority. One thing, it's the first thing. And so ask yourself this question: how am I doing? How closely do the things that I say are most important? And if you're here because you care about creating, how close and to the front and of my day does creating show up? Because I know I talked a lot earlier about when I talked about energy management. Yes, you come to the end of your day and you're drained and you don't have enough to create. That's part of the problem. Part of the problem is that you're leaving creating to the end of the day. You're not making it a priority. You're not bringing it to the front end, to the first thing that you do when you're most fresh, most energized, or most ready to give your best to the world. You're giving your best to other things and maybe to other people, instead of thinking about like, how do I make this a priority? So if it's going to be a priority, not priorities, it needs to make its way to the front of your life and to your day. So think about that. How can you become someone who creates before they consume? There's, consuming is reading other people's content and other things people are creating, or listening to the news, or just, just all the ways in which you're just sucking in and taking in. How can you insert a time where you are creating first and you're putting what you need to do and put out into the world first? So I know I mentioned Laura earlier, and one of the other things that we did was help to create a buffer in her day. So in addition to getting us narrowed down to her 5 vital functions so that, you know, she was managing the boundaries of what she needed to do, we we instituted just like that, a 30-minute buffer at the start of her day. And that was her time. And I told her, you can do whatever you want to do at this time. You can sit and you can stare at the wall. You can do some writing. But it was to begin to institute that practice of creating for her and giving her that space a priority. So I would definitely challenge you to try and think about doing that. How can you also create a buffer in your morning, you know, be it 15 minutes or 30 minutes or something, like where you're giving yourself that time and that space to create. So here's another challenge. So there's a link here. I wrote a LinkedIn article about practicing creative hygiene. And this is something that I think it would be great for those who want to create to also think about adopting. And essentially what creative hygiene is taking the idea of other hygiene practices and applying it to creating. So essentially, like, so for example, you wouldn't leave your house, at least I hope, you wouldn't leave your house without brushing your teeth or taking a bath to go to an office. Well, no one's going to the office right now, or to go meet with someone or do anything like that without taking care of your hygiene. And you wouldn't do it under the guise of saying, no, they need me and it's essential that I be out there helping them. You would still take care of yourself and brush your teeth first. So think about it in the same way, in the sense of like adopting a practice of creative hygiene. And so foundational to this habit is is 3 things. The idea that you're going to do it first, you're going to make it a priority, and you're going to do it every single day. And the fail safe is that you're going to do it immediately, kind of like a stop, drop, and roll, but stop, drop, and create sort of idea if you miss it. So let's say your day starts and you're like halfway through your day and you're like, oh my goodness, I didn't create. You just stop, drop, and create. And you can do this for at least 3 to 15 minutes. And because it's not so much time that you can't at least make some room or space to it. Like you could slip away and create, whether it's writing about, if that's your creating mode, or writing about what it is that you want to think through and create, right? So yes, Juanita, I'm going to drop the link in the chat. So try this and practice this, doing it first, doing it daily, and doing it immediately when you remember. So what would it look like if you tried this tomorrow? If you made creating a priority, what might that thing be that you're going to do and work on and create? I want you to think about it, because we're going to do something with that. And we're going to do it right now. So remember I said we were going to do a demo? Okay, so we're going to do it right now. So get a blank page, blank piece of paper, and we're actually going to do our own creative hygiene practice right this moment. So now I know I feel I need to call some of you out. Do not go to another tab. This is not time to escape and do something else. No checking of your phone, checking of your email. No, stay with me, because this is our challenge, right? Getting distracted and letting all these other things get in the way of us being able to create. So we're going to do it for 3 minutes, and I'm going to do it as well. And we're going to pretend that we got started on our day, which we did, and we forgot about creating and we didn't do it first. And now we're like, oh my goodness, I didn't create. So we're going to stop, drop, and create right now. So I'm going to set the timer, and just get your booklet out and whatever you need to do. If you don't have something else you're thinking of, just go ahead and draw. I just want to show you how easy and possible it is to do this. So starting now. Okay, time is up. So, how was that? Share in the chat. How is it taking 3 minutes? Tough? Went by fast? Yeah, you were surprised what you focused on. Okay, yeah, felt long, Pauline. Yeah. So, clarity, good. So, see how easy or hard that was. So, you can do it. You all did it anyway. I know you can do it because you just did it. So, it's as simple as that. 3 minutes on a timer. As soon as you remember, always having a book or something handy. It requires planning and thinking ahead of time about what it is that you want to do and what you want to create, right? But it is doable, and it is a practice. As any with anything that's a practice, it takes time to develop and build that muscle, but it's time to do that. So we've talked about energy management. Well, first we talked about boundary management, energy management, and then we just talked about priority management and how you can start bringing things to the front and to the center and creating that you want to do. And so this is the final and the bonus one I wanted to talk about, which is essentially probably what a lot of people think about when they hear the word environment, and that is physical environment management. So some of you might have an environment that looks like this, or you're reformed now and your environments used to look like this. But the point is everything that's in your environment affects and impacts your ability to create. And so everyone is different, right? Some folks can handle and manage a lot more in their environment because it doesn't distract them as much. But again, you need to know what that is and what it looks like for you. And you can still apply the principles that we talked about earlier to how you manage your physical environment. So applying boundary management to your physical environment. Should this even be here? Like thinking about the boundaries. Is this thing that's in my space just here to be in my space, just to take up space? How much thought are you putting into that? Or is it just sort of like, yes, more and more things can come into my space, in my environment, especially where I'm creating. So apply boundary management ideas to how you navigate and filter what comes into and will be in your physical environment. And then think about applying energy management to how you look at your physical environment. Is what I'm doing supporting or distracting from me being able to create? Really think about, like, what is around there, because even, especially for me, just even something being in my visual line of view has an impact on my ability to focus and actually create. So think about that. Don't just assume that everything in your environment is supportive. Like, really do an assessment. And then adding priority management principles to your physical environment are the most important, is the thing that's most important to helping me create closest to me and easily available and accessible. So if you're creative and you write things down, is your notebook and pen like halfway across the room, or is it something that you keep by your bedside so that in the morning, first thing, you have that trigger, a bit of a visual cue to get to creating, or whatever that thing or that object might be for you. Beginning to think about, if I'm serious about creating, how can I have a physical environment that supports that? And not just trying to get to the end of the day and ram it in, but how can I also have a physical environment that's supporting me in getting to what it is that I want? So that you can maybe this might be your dream if you're a minimalist, have a space that's like this, right? So we're not all going to have a place that looks this perfect like we're real life human beings, but the point of this image is to get a sense of it seems like everything in this space is designed and intentional and essential for to help this person focus on creating or doing whatever it is that they need to do in that space. So that's essentially what you want to do. And the other thing about physical environment management is that it's essentially attention management. There's Your physical environment has a big impact on your attention and your ability to focus. And so that's essentially what you're doing, because where your attention goes, that's where your energy flows, and that's essentially where your ability to create is going. So managing your physical environment is like a two for one. It's help once you've gotten that locked down, it's going to help you with your attention. And all of these things, right, that I've shared are helping you to think about your space and think about creating in a way that's different from this focus on like, oh, do I have time or do I not have enough time? Which I hope I've disabused you of that notion that you don't have enough time or that even time is your issue. But that our challenge is about around our boundaries. What are we doing with them, and our energy, and how we're managing that, and our priority and our physical environment. So this is where our focus needs to be. And so I know I shared at the start that I was going to tell you more about how you could put some of this into practice. And there are a few people here on the call. It was great to see who are part of this challenge that I'm doing in May. But the every single day 30-day challenge is coming up again in June. And what that is it's a space where I'm supporting and coaching professionals like yourselves who want to create, who want to, who are not, looking to wait for another moment or another time, but really want to create the products, services, or experiences, or whatever it is that you have within yourself, or tap into your creative genius to find the space to create at this time. So that's what the challenge is designed for, to support you through coaching and community, and so to ensure that you make some progress on it. So essentially what's the June challenge is coming up. There are only 10 slots available. Well, now 7, because 3 people have already signed up. And it's essentially, it's a 30-day challenge where there's group coaching. I provide individual support for those who come for office hours if you're the only person there. And essentially it's a daily accountability group, right? So there's a WhatsApp group. There are two times in the day where you'll check in and just report in on what it is that you've done. And then there's like a weekly virtual office hour call where there will go into a little bit more detail about what's challenging you and what's getting in the way. Lots of encouragement, lots of support. And it'll run throughout the month of June. And the first day will be on May 31st, where you're going to get a chance to do some planning, ABC planning, where you'll think about like, okay, what are the things that how am I going to map this out so that I can achieve my creating goals for the month? And then get to the end of the month and really be excited about the progress that I'm making. And so that's if you're interested and you want more support in figuring out how do I actually put this boundary management, energy management, and all this, priority management into practice, the every single day challenge group is the perfect place and spot for that. So I'm just going to leave you with that. Really excited for all of you to join, that you came today. And I'm going to look and check in the chat, and just now's the time. If you have any questions, what questions do you have about how you can implement some of this, or what thoughts or feelings do you have at the end of this? Just go ahead and hop on in the chat, or you can, unmute yourself or share or talk. Thanks, Carol. Yes, the challenge is, and I've been taking the challenge myself too, and I find it to be super helpful. Yes, no, it's not just for creatives, Trevor. So it's like, so my target audience is, I work with professionals. So it's professionals who want to create with their gifts or have any other goals that they want to achieve. So and there's some folks who are on here who are, I don't know if they would define themselves as creative. So Emma just responded that it's been very helpful. And I don't know, Emma, if you would define yourself as a creative. And Nkosi, yes, also been helpful. I'm not a creative. Yes, a lot of accountability. Yes. Yes, Trevor, you're the one who decides what your goals are for the 30-day challenge. And Trevor, you can hop on the video if you have any questions. You guys, I think you should be able to unmute yourselves. And so one of the things also that I like to make sure that I remind people is that creating is for everyone, right? So it's not just for people who define themselves as creatives. Like, we all have gifts, we all have talents, we all have things to contribute. And so the act of creating is sort of like what I like to focus more on. Like, how do you bring your gifts to life? How do you like create something with it? And so that's something that everyone can do, and that I'm, passionate about everyone like tapping into and working on. Oh, you're at the supermarket, Trevor.
Hey, Joy.
We see you. Hi, welcome.
Okay, so question for you. In terms of like work, because a lot of us work, have like regular work. I'm wondering like your thoughts on how this can be applied like in that space, because that is a big environment for a lot of us.
Mm-hmm.
And so just wanted to hear more about your thoughts on that, or ways to
Yeah,
this.
sure. So all of this is for people who work, right? So I'm someone who's still, working in an organization, doing coaching within an organization, and my clients who I support and share a lot of these principles with are in a work setting and work environment. They're leaders, or they're individual contributors, and these are the challenges that they face, and they still want to do this. And so what I find is that the key to this really is changing how we think about what is or isn't allowed, and changing how we think about what we're going to do, really, in terms of, I think the big huge shift is around priority. That's been the huge shift for me, realizing that no one is going to give me permission to create or invest in this area for myself, and no one is going to put it on my to-do list. I'm going to have to put it on my to-do list, and essentially instead of looking for somewhere to put it at the corner or the edges of my life, I'm going to have to shove it to the front and right into the middle, which is why I had to stop, drop, and create. Because if you're thinking, okay, well, I'm looking for a time, or I'm looking for some other way or space to do or engage this, you're not going to find that time. You're not going to find that space, right? You're going to have, it's sort of like, you're just going to have to, you're going to have to be a little bit of a ninja about it and fight for it in a nice way. Okay, yes. So let me, yes.
I have a question for you. This is Pauline speaking.
Hi.
I wanted to know, how would you manage guilt? The guilt of, being on the clock and taking time from the job to work on your creative side, or the guilt of, as a parent, not spending, just a few minutes of your day with your children to focus on being creative. Like, how I struggle with that, with the guilt aspect of finding that time, or carving in that time to make my creativity a priority.
Yeah, so guilt, huge, 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 huge one. I'm not going to say it's easy. It's a constant work. What I can say is it's something that you can make. I wouldn't say go away, but it can become easier. So it's sort of like, it's more intense at the beginning when you start doing this, and then over time, as you build the muscle, it starts to be replaced with a passion and excitement and a sense of rightness about what you're doing, what you're creating, especially when you create something and then you share it and then people benefit from it. Like, what's to feel guilty about that, right? So when I invest more time in creating the things that I need to create, and offer it, and others benefit and are enjoying it, I'm like, oh yeah, I was feeling so guilty about the time that I was taking to do this, but look at what folks would have missed out on. Look at what I would have missed out on. And so part of that's why priority management is so important, Pauline, because once you start your day, if you have kids, once the kids are up, I think game is over, right? So it's sort of like, how do you then sort of say, okay, I'm going to make this a priority. I'm going to find, and that's why I make it so simple, 3 to 15 minutes, so that you start to flex that muscle. And then you'll start to figure out how to expand on that. But it's sort of real, is thinking about it that if I don't put my oxygen mask on my face first, I can't help anyone else. So it is a good thing, and it is right for me to make sure that I am making my unique contribution, that I'm taking care of myself, that I'm feeding my soul, because I believe that creating is to our souls the same as breathing is to our bodies. And so someone who is, and you can tell the people who are in their purpose and who are creating, who are excited, there's a brightness about them, they're excited, they're passionate, and you love being around them and you get so much from them. So imagine you being able to do that and bring more of that into the world. And when it comes to kids and what they see, they'll learn from what you're doing or not doing, not what you tell them. So imagine them, like, you know, think about them 10, 20 years from now, and they're not prioritizing their gifts and their talents, and you trying to tell them, like, no, you should, and you should bring this to the world. And they're like, okay, but you never did, right? So think of this as an opportunity also to do that and to demonstrate for them, and even as difficult as it might be. But again, 3 to 15 minutes. I think everyone can start to flex their muscle around that. And I say it's so important to keep things small, because as folks who are in the challenge group know, and we call ourselves the turtles, you know, at the end of the day, the turtle is the one who wins the race. The hare was trying to go big and was running and was speeding off and was doing all these great big things. But at the end of the day, the turtle, just by taking little steps, baby little consistent steps, is the one who won the race. So if it seems big and overwhelming, bring it down 1,000 notches. Make this so easy for you that you can roll out of bed, fall over your creating goal every single day and be like, yay, I did it, and get on with your day. And then you'll build that muscle, and it'll eventually become easier, and then you'll eventually expand the time that you're able to do that with. It's a great question. I hope I answered it. I know that was a lot.
Yeah, this is Emma. I just
Yeah.
wanted to add on the professional side. Like, I just ended my relationship with a company that I pretty much for the past 5 years invested heavily on. Had like 2 demanding roles in that time frame. And my job usually starts after 5 when staff has gone, because all day you're blowing out fires, you're solving problems, you're micromanaging lazy people and all of that. And yet, like you, I have so many things I could have been doing for my own personal growth, development, and so forth. I didn't have the time. When I go home, I'm so tired. I don't have the time, and it starts all over again. Even on weekend, I had to work sometimes. So hindsight, especially how the relationship ended, I wouldn't, I'm advising you right now, do not prioritize a job. Do not prioritize a job. Your kids, prioritize them, but do not prioritize the job. As long as you're meeting your KPIs, you're doing your best to perform, and you're not lazy or whatever, no one is going to, fire you based on your productivity. Maintain it the minimum possible and invest in yourself and your family, period. That's going forward. That's pretty much the lessons learned. And everyone is, dispensable. And I'm sorry, some people, you have very few leaders that will actually value their staff and invest in them, growth and development. They should have been really encouraging you to give you time. I used to work for a company here in the States that is a social responsible investment firm. They'll give you time, like even to volunteer, 8 hours a month just to volunteer if you want to. Unfortunately, not a lot of staff, employers are like that friendly. So believe me, just don't even feel guilty when it comes to the job side. The family side I can understand, but the job side,
I feel the same, but I think that there's so much that we have to offer when we really create, and show up and creating first, right? So even once you've started your day with creating and investing in that and being in that fully charged up, your battery full space, the job is going to get good stuff. Right? The job is going to get benefit from you showing up in your best possible way in light. And so you'll win by having devoted and given to your creating, and they get you energized to, a certain degree. So I see it as a win. I see it as a win-win. So definitely make your creating and you and your talents a priority. Everyone will be okay. What other questions do you guys have? I hope I put in the link for the challenge. I hope everyone got that, and I hope you guys got the link for the LinkedIn, my LinkedIn article on creative hygiene. You can follow me on LinkedIn or friend me on LinkedIn if you don't have that, and I can share that with you guys there as well.
So I want to share my page on your class. Is it email? So the people that might be interested to email you, or?
So the challenge. So yeah, so Zoom won't let you direct click on it, but if you just copy the link, you can share
Where
that.
is it? I don't see the link for the challenge.
I just posted it. I'll repost it right now.
I see the one for. Oh yeah, I see the everyday challenge, but not the one for the book. The one for the book, the article.
Oh, the.
You
Here.
posted the link for the article? I know it was on the slide.
I will send it again. Just a second.
Dang.
Here. What other questions do you guys have? Or what are you going to put into practice next week?
Sorry, this is Coney here. Is this a nudge that we should just be getting up earlier in the morning to focus on things we need?
if that were, I found that to be really helpful, but I know and I'm not even going to say everyone's not a morning person, because I mean, you do get up at some point in the morning. But which is why stop, drop, and roll should work for those who are like, look, this is not happening. I'm not getting up. I'm not doing the early buffer thing. It's just not going to happen. You can still do stop, drop, and create. You can, at some other point in your day, take time to create for at least 3 to 15 minutes, or devote that time.
Okay.
Other questions, other practices, what are you guys going to do? Here, this is the longer link for the LinkedIn article. Okay, Faith is asking, what does this look for me? Like for me, my creative hygiene practices. So I have things by my bedside. So I've started making sure I have a notebook and a pen by my bed, because I often wake up with ideas and thoughts. And so I do a lot of pre-creating first thing in the morning. So I think about, like, okay, this is what these are the thoughts I'm having, these ideas, this is the article I might want to write. Even before I get out of bed, I have it right by the bedside. It makes it easy for me to create that at that point. I've also completely reoriented how I do my actual workday. So Coney might not like this, but before we were in this, sort of like stay at home, I used to go to work very early. I worked in an open office space. I would go to work very early and commandeered one of our conference rooms, which I made into my office. And I made 6 to 8 a.m. because 8 a.m. was when it was like we officially started. I made 6 to 8 a.m. my time. And so I would just be there. I would be creating, I would be writing, I would just whatever I wanted to do for my business. I made that time sacred, and I was like, this is my space and I'm going to devote it to me. And it was important for me, which is why I think that priority and making first, it was important for me to do a lot of work about my stuff for me before I did work for someone else. Because that totally impacted and changed how I thought about creating and how I experienced myself and what I think about my work. There's just something about not just getting up in the morning, first thing in the morning, and rushing up and doing work for other people, which is why I think that creating that buffer is so important. It just does something to your psyche and to your mind to do that. So that's sort of, those were the two most important things that I did. Having something by my bedside and making sure that I do a lot of work for myself before I do work for anyone else. So we're at the hour. We're at 1 o'clock. Thank you guys so much for coming. Thank you guys so much for participating. I hope you guys found this helpful. I hope you guys have the link. I hope some of you guys join us in the challenge for June. It's going to be lots of fun, and you're going to be surprised by a lot of things that you do and create. I'm continuing these webinars because I'm going to be doing other aspects and parts of the challenge. Sorry, not the challenge, the framework going forward. So look out for that email, and I will be sending all of you who signed up for today the replay of this so you can listen to it again and think through it. And find me on LinkedIn. Let's chat. Let's keep this conversation going. Go forth to create and serve. do your stuff first. We need to see your gifts come out into this world. So make it happen, if not just for you, but for all of us who are going to benefit. So enjoy. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Joy. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.